Hello summoners and welcome to another ProGuides OP pick of the patch. We'd like to start off today by saying thank you so much to our viewers for giving us such great feedback. You asked and we listened. We're making a couple of changes to this video from our last one and are going to be talking about our OP picks for the patch on each role instead of just choosing one champion. Let us know down below if you'd like to see more videos like this, and if you guys have any more feedback. There's a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. Starting with the top lane, we're mentioning a pick that just seems to be coming back for more time in the spotlight, KAYLE. In spite of the nerfs in 9.8, KAYLE is still a powerhouse that can't be ignored in the top lane. We believe these nerfs aren't big enough to change the stance she holds in the meta. Her strengths are that she has an insane late game, she has both great split push potential and team fighting potential, and she has a strong mix of utility and damage. Some of the weaknesses is that her early game is horrific, she also has difficulty contesting objectives early on, and she has a hard time impacting 2v2s or 3v3 fights early on. Let's go over how to play KAYLE effectively. As KAYLE, your obvious goal is to be scaling up. Don't worry about the early game too much, your major objective is to not die. You'll be using your mana to poke in safe lanes, or just to farm in ones that are dangerous. By running teleport, you'll be able to use it during the lane phase to get resets and farm more, while simultaneously enabling you to split push and pick up side lane farm later. Come the mid to late game, you want to be pushing in side lanes and then deciding whether to group with your team or commit to split pushes while your waves are crashing into the enemy turrets. The great thing is that as KAYLE, you're good at both, so no matter what you choose to do, it's important just to commit to it. Here are some tips while playing KAYLE. Remember that when you're playing as KAYLE, your opponent is on a timer. You can just play slow, you don't need to feel too pressured to win your lane, just look to poke for free or trade back early damage when they come and aggress on you. Don't look for longer trades. That's probably not going to work for you in the early game unless you've already gotten your opponents low. When we say trade back, we want you to know that as KAYLE, you have some strength to fight back with a minion wave on your side, and in conditions where she won't get kited, you could probably go in for a trade. Do your best to manage your waves so that you can maximize your early game farm and set up your transitions into the mid game. Finally, try both AD and AP builds to see what you like. They're both viable. AP gives you a stronger mid-game power spike, while AD allows you to be stronger in the late game. Now, when you're actually playing against KAYLE, instead of learning how to play a certain way, it's probably best that you choose the right champion. There are specific counter picks to KAYLE that do really well against her. 1 is Jax, 2 is Riven, and 3 is Nasus. All these characters have great scaling, so that means they can keep up with her in the late game, and they have kits that help fight against her poke and auto-attack based fighting style. As a counter to KAYLE, we recommend picking Nasus because, like KAYLE, he has an extremely strong scaling, and a Wither with his level 6 power spike gives him the ability to win fights. Gameplay-wise, KAYLE is prone to ganks. Make sure to call for jungle pressure to set your wave up so you can punish her. Alternatively, use your early game advantages to set up slow pushes on waves, roam, and create pressure. Alright, for all you jungle mains out there, SEJUANI, after a short slumber, has awoken to once again climb the win rate charts. With the buffs this patch, it's almost certain that she will become a strong pick in the jungle. Some of her strengths are that she has a very strong clear, she has an extremely strong gank potential, and she also provides hard initiation with a lot of utility, making her a great team fighter. Some of the weaknesses is that her damage falls off. She also has difficulty dealing damage after her initial combo. So how do you want to play as SEJUANI? Well, SEJUANI's clear speed and gank potential make her a champion who can be flexible with her jungle pathing. Because of this, you want to try to be clearing camps in whichever lane you want to be putting more pressure on. So since you're able to clear all camps well, make sure to take advantage of your AoE damage with Hunter's Talisman. Your ultimate goal as SEJUANI is to get your laners rolling with good ganks. It's important, however, to balance farming so you can hit your level 6 power spike faster, offering you more gank opportunities and the ability to force fights at objectives. In the later stages of the game, your job is to group with your team, deny vision, and look for hard engages. Here are some tips when playing SEJUANI. She's especially strong when she has melee carries in her lanes. The reason for this is that they'll allow her to instantly stack up her stun, and it's simply a good pairing. She provides the lockdown and tanks, while her carry can dish out the damage. With Aftershock and her passive, SEJUANI is also a strong champion for diving opponents under their turrets. Try to get one of your lanes rolling and really abusing them by looking for smart dives. Remember that unless you are very far ahead, your best role to play is someone who helps their team. You don't necessarily have to commit hard to dives, just use your CC on the most important targets and use your best judgment on whether you should be peeling or diving. So some tips when playing against SEJUANI: ranged junglers will have a really good time versus her. As any champion, you want to start the fight by breaking SEJUANI's passive, but ranged champions can do this by just auto-attacking. Ultimately, SEJUANI's abilities can be dodged, and quite easily when you aren't in melee range, so champions who can kite her or who are strong in long fights can find success versus her. We recommend picking ranged champions or champions who can abuse Conqueror into SEJUANI. Trundle is another champion that was buffed this patch, so we predict that he will again be a strong counter pick to SEJUANI. So for all you mid lane mains out there, we recommend GLP Ahri. Before we get into the strengths and weaknesses, I want to mention that we have a great guide on mastering the mid lane with former Cloud9 pro player Hai on ProGuides.com, where you'll learn all the tips and tricks to winning more in the mid lane. Some of the strengths of GLP Ahri is that she's able to burst out champions extremely fast. She's also relatively safe with her E and her R. She also has excellent pick-making potential. Some of her weaknesses are that she's a bit weaker in the early game, and she also has high mana costs to clear waves. So how do you want to play GLP Ahri? So we did mention in our previous tier list video that Ahri was a great pick, but instead of running Electrocute like we used to see in the past, she is now running Glacial Augment and building items to supplement the rune. With this build, you become a pick-making machine, allowing you to take objectives after picking off opponents who overextend. When starting the game out, your goal is to get Lost Chapter. If your opponent gives you opportunities to land some damage, then you should definitely take them. However, know that the early game is not where your strength lies. Once you hit level 6 and have some more mana, that's when you have more options to start looking for kills. Remember, you are trying to get your core items, Hextech GLP 800 and Twin Shadows, to enable your pick potential. Make sure to use this setup when you play her with this build. This setup will allow you to have almost no downtime on your ability to make picks, which is going to be your goal when you play GLP Ahri. Make sure that after every pick, you do something off of it. Take objectives, get vision, get turret damage, or at worst, just recall so you can spend your money and repeat the process. When playing versus Ahri, we recommend champions who have high kill pressure on her or who can clear waves against her safely. Champions like Fizz and Zed can trade favorably against her while also having more efficient wave clear. This will help your laning phase and make it more difficult for her, and also prevent her from getting early roams to begin snowballing. Champions with strong, safe wave clear like Vel'Koz and Morgana also help shut her down. They can scale well and also shove harder than Ahri to help neutralize her early on in the game. When she decides to make roaming plays, it's important to push your waves hard to make sure she misses out on farm every time she tries to help her team. In competitive play, it comes as no surprise that we've started to see the phenomenon that has surfaced in the bot lane, SONA plus TARIC. With this duo, it's practically impossible to lose teamfights, so we suggest finding a duo partner to start dominating the Rift with. Some strengths with this bot lane duo are the double support item, more income overall with more vision because of wards, you have very strong team fighting presence via utility and sustain, and you also have strong peel and disengage. Some of the weaknesses to this duo are the weak early game. You guys don't have much pressure early on in the laning phase, and it's a massive weakness to this duo. You guys also need long fights to really draw out their strength, and you really have barely any wave clear. The wave clear is extremely weak with this duo, making it hard for you guys to actually roam in the first place, and then also you guys have no escapes. You guys are easy to gank. Let's talk about how to play this oddball lane. Since you're both playing support champions, you have the opportunity to exploit support item income. In this lane, SONA will be giving farm to TARIC. He will attempt to take as much as he can, and SONA picks up the scraps TARIC can't reach for. Because Targon's doesn't punish you for farming, this is ideal, and SONA can get a lot of gold through poking her opponents with Spell Thief's Edge, while also getting the shared gold from Targon's. Once SONA finishes her Spell Thief's quest, she begins to farm and transition into a utility carry hybrid. In the end, this allows both champions to have much higher income than they normally would. Your goal as SONA TARIC is to scale up and out-sustain your opponents while you're a bit weak until your first base. All you need to do is try to poke and survive. Typically, SONA will want to run TP so that she can base to buy her Frostfang upgrade and tier ASAP. However, Barrier is also a viable option when kill threat is high. Once she has her items, it becomes easier and more rewarding for her to look to poke and trade with assistance from TARIC. You can essentially trade evenly with your opponents, then sustain it all back. Later on in the game, this duo will prove to be a nuisance to the enemy team that punishes any poor execution or mistake. So some tips when playing this odd duo: remember to take it slow in the laning phase. You are trying to slow poke your opponents out. Even just getting poke and farming evenly will net your income more than your opponents. You'll be strongest when you can group up with your team and look for a team fight, so put a lot of priority on vision control and try to force fights at neutral objectives. Tips when playing against this duo. When you do see TARIC and SONA in the bot lane, it's best to either commit to hard scaling champions or a kill lane. Since they are a lane with low kill pressure, picking a champion who scales strongly and just needs some early game farm is possible here. Picks like Vayne and Kog'Maw paired with a defensive support can allow you to reach a stalemate and possibly even try to fight if they position poorly. The other option is to play extremely high kill pressure lanes with a lot of CC to set up kills in lane or ganks. Ashe is a champion that has found success against SONA TARIC, and this is likely due to her mix of crowd control and damage potential. That covers our OP picks for this patch. Thanks so much for watching, and again, please make sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you like this type of content. If you guys are interested in getting better at League of Legends this season, then please check out ProGuides.com, where we have great guides and coaches for you guys to improve in Ranked. That's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let us know down below what OP pick you plan to use. Good luck in your next games, and I'll see you on the Rift.